Hi, my name is Addie, and welcome to The Pulse. George Seara is a Grammy-nominated mixing engineer from Toronto. He's worked with the likes of Shawn Mendes and Rihanna. How are you doing today, George?
Very well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So can you tell me a little bit about how you got started in music?
Okay. Well, I started out as a musician and started out playing guitar when I was about 13 years old. I had a friend in school at that time, and his dad had an electric guitar and was into, Kiss and a lot of rock bands, classic rock bands. And so we were introduced to his dad's guitar and started playing. And soon thereafter, it just ended up being something that I just wanted to keep doing. So I ended up getting my own electric guitar. Was very fortunate to get one early on, and just played throughout high school, various rock bands and sort of indie kind of punk bands, and through playing with my band, we ended up getting a rehearsal space. And in those rehearsal spaces, there'd be other bands, various bands down the hall and stuff. And so we would exchange ideas, write songs. A camaraderie would develop naturally. And from there, we would delve into recording demos. And from there, it just further piqued my interest. I was always interested in sound, but seeing the studio side and the live side and just being able to control things and make things sound better, I was always on that quest for tone. So it was from there that, I just naturally sort of progressed. And after high school, I did a short stint with computer science in university. I was always delving with computers as well. And then from there, I took a break from school and went back to school and studied a music production recording engineering program. And from there, just pursued my dreams to enter recording engineering. And it's what I do today.
That's amazing. So you said you were really into rock music at first, but it seems like, you kind of graduated, or not graduated, but kind of gravitated more towards the pop genre. So what do you think draws you to that? And is it, kind of always been that way? Or did you start off recording rock music and have you, experimented with all these different kinds of genres, or is pop really your focus?
Good question. I would say that the way I liken it is this. In order for me to even still be thriving and doing well in the music industry, I have to keep the doors open and keep an open mind and be, open to change and trying new and different things. So I was always a yes person. Early on, some of my sessions that I had an opportunity to work on, it would be because some of the more senior engineers, they decided maybe they didn't, rap wasn't necessarily their thing, or hip hop. So they would be like, you can have that one. And I would always be like, I'll do it. And I'll do it to the very best of my ability. And I think that having worked on so many different genres of music, from hip hop to jazz to Latin to orchestral and all these different genres, it becomes a tool set that I can pull from, so that whenever I'm in a situation that I would otherwise think that would not call for it, I'm quite comfortable in those situations. So I think part of it's from keeping an open mind and diversifying, and just you have to have some perseverance in this industry. You have to have some patience, and you have to have a little bit of luck, and all those things combined in order to thrive. And I'm always learning, But if I got a call to work on a rock record or something, indie punk, what have you, I would be so so happy and down for it.
Absolutely. That's awesome. So let's talk a little bit about Shawn Mendes then. So Shawn, you've been working with him since he was literally like a child. So like how has that been, and what drew you to him to start working with him at such a young age?
Yeah, well, I started working with Shawn since he was about 15 years old, and I'm not sure that the world was quite ready for Shawn to take off in the way that he has, and nor was I ready necessarily, but I got a call from the record label, and we started working together, and I don't know, it's just been a natural sort of progression over time that we've just been working together, and I'm always so happy to get the call and be able to collaborate with him. He's a super talented cat, and he just has great ideas and an infectious energy in the room that he reminds me of me in some ways, that when I had that youthful, I still like to think I have some youthful energy in me, obviously, but he's a music fan. He loves music, and he loves all music, and he's not afraid to show show his love for other artists' work. And I just love that about him. He's just, he's not really, even though he might be classified in a pop genre, I would say he has a super open mind that, like, if you took him to, since I mentioned it earlier, let's say a punk rock show, pretty confident he would rock out and have an amazing time too. Like, he just loves music.
That's awesome. I really think that's what makes a super successful and well-rounded pop artist, is being able to draw from all different genres. So it makes a lot of sense that you guys work together so well. Can you tell me a little bit about how maybe the process has changed from working with him when he was younger to now?
Well, I mean, maybe one of the ways is rather than him come to me, I go to him. He's developed so much experience just being out on the road and taking his show to like stadiums. So I feel like he's just super experienced. He's seen so many things in so many places that that now when we get together, often it's to find a quiet place where Shawn can be creative and write, and we can capture those ideas as they develop, and whenever inspiration knocks, that we're always ready and there to record. So that's the biggest difference.
Nice. Okay. So Wonder is the new album, and it's hit #1. It's amazing. So great. So what was that recorded during the pandemic?
It was actually. We started the process probably officially somewhere around January, I'll say, of 2020, and then we were together also in March, and it's sort of just where things, this pandemic started to develop, and so we took a short break, and from there, we decided to come up with a plan where we could get together, and we sometimes get together for shorter durations. So, it's not always, there's not necessarily a formula, but like if we get together for 2 weeks or something like that at a time, that would be a nice creative burst where we'd get together, do some wonderful things, and then maybe we could decompress, go to other things, and then reconvene, and sometimes in a different environment, and continue. So in this case, I think in order to sort of navigate the pandemic, we opted to get together for a longer duration, and see how things would develop. And so we set up a remote studio, somewhat off the grid, if you will, and it was non-traditional. So we didn't necessarily have, if you think of a traditional recording studio, you would have a control room, which is what we're sitting in right now, and then you would have isolation or walls and glass where the musicians would be performing on the other side, and you'd be recording them. So our sort of studios, our remote studios, we would have no separation between, let's say, the control room and the recording space. But it actually has worked really well because we could keep the microphones sort of close to us. I can set up, a few drum sets, a piano, have, many guitars and basses and vocal microphones around the room. And between Shawn, myself, and a sort of close-knit team of creative collaborators, everyone can sort of, jam and not necessarily even wear any headphones. And from there, we can, capture the ideas whenever we'd like. And at the same time, we have a couple chairs pulled up near the computer that anyone can sort of take turns sitting around the computer and sort of sculpt some things together.
That's really cool. That honestly, it sounds a little bit more organic, like just a more comfortable environment. So that's really cool that it ended up working out that way.
Totally.
I would like to move on to a personal question of mine. I'm a big Pentatonix fan, and I see that you worked on one of their original albums. What was that like working with an a cappella group, and have you worked with any other a cappella groups before?
Yeah, well, you know what? I've worked with, I would say, a lot of vocalists. So just having worked with various vocalists in different genres of music and just really honing in on how important the vocal is to so much music. Ironically, growing up, I was probably more more about the melody and more about some of the instrumentation and how that was feeling for me, that type of energy. But as I progress now, I think the vocal and even the lyric have become far more meaningful to me than ever before. So having worked with various vocalists, I can think of another group called the Tenors, which is a Canadian group that David Foster took under his wing and developed. And, they also have a cross, classical to sort of pop-ish element to their work, that crossover nature where they retain some of the organic and some of the traditions of their music, but at the same time we bring it to sort of a newer and a more youthful audience. I think Pentatonix, it touches on that as well, where, they probably studied in various places growing up, and then their music, I think, is very youthful and has a pretty large demographic. And so working with them, I would say probably the most challenging and interesting thing about them is just capturing some of the percussion elements by way of just the voice alone, and having that speak in a percussive way where it needs to is very cool. Super talented, artist.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Yeah, it must have been a really interesting experience to work with that, and you've captured it very well. So, so as someone who does both recording and mixing, do you have a preference for doing one or the other, or is your preference to do both? Like, what is, how does that picture look for you?
Yeah, I'd say the mainstay of my work nowadays is mixing, and it's a good question. In a perfect world, I love the idea of being involved throughout a project. I spoke about it earlier, but I think there's a certain camaraderie and a certain personal, element that can only develop by being involved in a project from its onset. So having worked with an artist like Shawn from his onset, I think there's a certain almost synergy or something that happens over time that you develop a trust and an understanding for what it is that the artist is looking for naturally over time. So in mixing, I love mixing, and I would say that it doesn't make that much of a difference to me if an artist, and nowadays they're so capable of doing it in wherever they happen to be, that oftentimes if an artist is on the road, they're touring, inspiration knocks, whatever it happens to be, they often have to capture some of their ideas wherever they are at that given moment. So for that reason, and a few others, I think artists are capable of capturing their ideas where they happen to be. And then sometimes, they'll need a little bit of help taking it to the finish line. So whether it's them or their record label or management, they'll contact me and say, hey, we have this idea or we have this song that we captured. And then I'll get called in to take it to the finish line from there.
Yeah, I think you're totally right about the relationship between the artist and the engineer. I mean, speaking from experience, I'm literally married to my producer, so it definitely. I think the more time that you have to spend with the artist, it allows you to make that connection and really understand what it is they're looking for. So that's a really, really good point. What is something that you cannot live without in the studio?
Wow. Well. Speakers are something that are extremely important. We need great speakers that we just know and trust. And then I would say, microphones. Microphones are, microphones that we just know and trust and that we can put up. And even if we don't have the perfect listening environment or speakers, we already know that with the microphones that we're using and we know and trust that we're going to get some great sounding recordings. So I would say those two things are super important. And along with the speakers, I'm a big fan of these Sennheiser headphones. They're not the most expensive ones, but they're definitely my favorites that I keep going back to them. So they go with the speakers.
Nice. Awesome. I love that. What is your craziest story inside the studio?
Oh my gosh. Wow. It's a good question. I'm not sure if I have a crazy story. I can just...
What's something that stands out to you in your mind?
I can just say I'm super, I'm super happy and thrilled to think back at times of past sessions with 50 Cent. We worked on his Get Rich or Die Trying album and the film, which was filmed in Toronto. And he was, super professional and just punctual and driven and just had some really awesome sessions with him. And I remember around the time, I think I had also been working with, Fat Joe. I worked with a lot of hip hop artists and I worked with Fat Joe, and I think there was like a little bit of a beef between them or something. And I remember like 50 asking me like, so who you been working with? And I thought maybe he knew, so I didn't know what to say. And so I just said, I was just working with Fat Joe last week. And then I think as we were doing our session, then he managed to do like a little freestyle. And he sort of incorporated some lyrics that were just really, really amazing. And it was a really cool moment. Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool that you were kind of able to bring that out, though, that it came from something like that. That's really fun.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that with me. You've been awesome. Is there anything else you'd like to say? What are you working on right now? And where can people find you?
Yeah, I mean, you can find me, I'm on Instagram, George Seara, or Twitter, George Seara, or just my website, georgeseara.com. And yeah, my pleasure. And yeah, big thank you to Sennheiser. I'm not sure if it's okay to say that, but I just wanted to say that Sennheiser has been a fantastic company, and I can't think of a session of mine that I don't do without a plethora of Sennheiser or Neumann microphones all over the place. So yeah, amazing company.
We appreciate that. Thank you so much, George. Don't forget to like and subscribe to see more videos just like this.